Post your location and local time in the comments, because sometimes it's wild to realize where and when people are tuning in for these real-life dramas, like the one unfolding right now. The morning starts with gravel crunching under his tires, the kind of sound that usually means home is near, comfort is minutes away, but today it's accompanied by a deep hollow crack that seems to echo in his chest, followed by a roar no one mistakes for anything but fire. As he rounds the bend, the sight is a punch, thick black smoke curling into the pale sky, twisting and folding like some living thing. He grips the wheel harder, foot pressing until the truck jolts into the driveway, but the fight is already lost. Flames have wrapped themselves around the farmhouse like an angry lover who refuses to let go, chewing through the old timber, the hand-stitched quilts, and the stacks of dusty books his grandfather James had been collecting since before Elvis met a guitar. Volunteer firefighters dart like chess pieces, moving hoses, shouting over the heat. But their eyes say they know it's mostly for dignity now, not victory. Grandpa stands in the yard, hands that once could split oak trembling, and says just 4 words. It was her boy. No explanation needed. Everyone in Willow Creek knows her means Karen Millstone, HOA president, reigning queen of pettiness, who's been at war with Grandpa over everything from the windmill she calls an eyesore to the wildflowers she insists are weeds. Historians still argue whether small-town grudges burn hotter than city scandals, but here, it feels like molten truth. One firefighter leans in, voice low. Fire started near the east wall, smelled accelerant. And like she's been summoned by spite itself, a silver SUV slides up. Out steps Karen in a suit that looks more brunch than disaster zone, sunglasses tilting just enough to flash a smile dripping with false sympathy. She tosses out a line about HOA standards, as if that's a fire extinguisher for guilt, and when asked if she's threatening him, she just hums about stating facts, hoping insurance is solid. Grandpa doesn't flinch, but his gaze could slice marble. That night, in the dim kitchen of his grandson's place, over coffee gone cold, he says, if she wants a fight, we'll fight, but not here. And in that moment, the embers outside aren't the only thing still burning. By dawn, boots crunch over blackened wreckage, and in the ashes he finds the warped gold of Grandma's locket, his grip tightening as he promises, she's not taking everything, not like this. The county fire investigator confirms accelerant, asks if there's a suspect, and Grandpa's answer lands like a gavel, Karen Millstone. The investigator's brow lifts, maybe out of habit, maybe because accusing the head of the HOA is like kicking a hornet's nest while wearing honey for cologne. But Grandpa's eyes don't blink. Burning a man's home is serious too. Over the next days, the two of them become part-time detectives, piecing together a trail that smells of both gasoline and arrogance. They comb through HOA meeting minutes, each page a museum of Karen's nitpicking, from barn paint violating neighborhood palette to grass length exceeding aesthetic standard. A letter from just 2 weeks before the fire stands out, a formal threat of immediate and severe consequences if he didn't comply. Historians still argue whether bureaucratic language can drip venom, but this one definitely leaves a stain. Then comes the neighbor's account. Mr. Dobbins, who still wears suspenders like the fashion police never arrived, says he saw a silver SUV by the east wall the night before the fire, headlights off. Someone hauling a red gas can like it was a picnic basket. When they hand the packet to the sheriff, he just nods slow, the kind of nod that means a file's about to get a lot thicker. But Karen moves faster. Certified mail lands on Grandpa's table, a lawsuit accusing him of property blight and harming neighborhood value. She's trying to flip the script before the ink on her own guilt dries. Grandpa doesn't even bother with a speech, just tucks it back in the envelope and says, let's see how she likes the witness stand. 2 weeks later, the courthouse feels more like a theater before curtain. Neighbors lean forward in the gallery, some of them former Karen allies now curious to see the show. Reporters from the local paper have their pens ready, smelling a lead that might get them out of covering fall pumpkin festivals. The sheriff testifies first. Accelerant traces match gas sold at a station 3 miles from the farmhouse. Then the bombshell, grainy security footage of a woman in a dark coat filling a red gas can at 10:42 p.m., silver SUV right beside her. Karen's lawyer jumps up like a cat on tinfoil, blurry, inconclusive, but the judge just asks the question straight. Is that your vehicle? Karen freezes, offers a wobbly can't say for sure, and the room hums with murmurs. Mr. Dobbins takes the stand, slow and steady, describing the SUV by the east wall, the red can in hand. Karen fiddles with her pearl necklace, eyes fixed anywhere but him. When Grandpa speaks, he doesn't shout. He talks about how a home isn't just wood and nails, it's breath and memory, and how she took that from him for the sake of rules about gardens and barns. For a second, Karen's mask slips. She mutters rules are rules under her breath. The judge catches it, asks if she just tied the fire to HOA rules. Karen tries to backpedal, but the gavel of that moment has already fallen. As they leave, the cameras swarm. Karen's chin suddenly aimed at the pavement, and Grandpa says quietly, "Tomorrow's when the truth burns brighter than the fire." The next morning, the courthouse feels different, quieter, tighter, like the air's holding its breath. Even the ceiling fan's hum seems to have signed a non-disclosure agreement. Karen sits at the defense table without her trademark pearls, wearing a thin chain that looks more like a placeholder for dignity than jewelry. Her lawyer's eyes are red, the kind of red that comes from either late-night legal strategy or regretting life choices. Grandpa leans into his grandson, voice low. She's not smiling anymore, and there's steel under the calm. Karen's attorney goes first, trying to paint the whole thing as circumstantial. No one caught her with a match in her hand, just a neighborly feud and some blurry video. But his words slide off like rain on oiled leather. The gas station footage, the accelerant residue, the witness who saw her car, all of it weaves into a net historians still argue is the courtroom equivalent of checkmate. Then it's their turn. Their lawyer doesn't bother with theatrics. He talks about intimidation, abuse of power, the deliberate destruction of a man's life. He says when threats didn't work, Karen chose fire. When the judge invites final words, Grandpa stands, steady as a fence post in high wind. He talks about storms tearing barns apart, time wearing down fences, and how nothing prepares you for a neighbor deciding you don't belong in your own home. If there's no consequence for that, he says, none of us are safe. The judge listens without moving, hands folded, the clock ticking like a metronome. Then she leans forward, voice crisp, "Mrs. Millstone, the evidence against you is compelling." She lists the accelerant purchase, the vehicle ID, the witness testimony, saying together they leave little doubt. The verdict: liable for the destruction of the home, full restitution, damages for emotional distress, and referral for criminal charges. Gasps ripple through the gallery. Cameras flash. Karen's face drains to the color of week-old oatmeal. She starts with a "you can't," but the judge's voice cuts her clean off. Her lawyer touches her arm, but she jerks away, staring at Grandpa like disbelief might undo the gavel's echo. Grandpa doesn't smirk, doesn't gloat, just nods once, like acknowledging a season has ended. Outside, the sun is bright on the courthouse steps, almost too bright after the dim inside. Grandpa pauses, breathing it in. "Funny," he says, "how the ashes didn't end things. They started them." They walk away, not toward the loss but toward the rebuild, each step lighter than the one before, like the ground itself is finally on their side. And then the pace slows, the noise fades. In the mind's eye, the farmhouse stands whole again, not in wood and shingles, but in the way memory preserves corners and shadows, in the smell of morning coffee drifting through an open window, in the sound of boots on a clean porch floor. It's easy now to picture Grandpa there, not as a man who lost everything, but as one who saw justice turn like the seasons, steady and inevitable. Somewhere, the wind catches in the tall grass where wildflowers still grow, wild, untamed, unapologetic. And in that quiet, it's possible to believe that sometimes what burns down clears the way for what was meant to stand all along.